The Power of Noticing, part 2 in our bite-sized PD series. So I want to model today for you how you can embed the question, what do you notice, into your math lessons. So whether you use Google Slides or Google Classroom Pieces, or even just pencil and paper notebook style of teaching, you can always embed a what do you notice question. So let's start with activating prior knowledge. So here is a Math 7 lesson that I'm doing on algebraic expressions. And the prior knowledge from 6th grade should be that students know the word terms, variable, constant, coefficient, and they generally know that constants get connected with constants and variables get connected with variables. But the goal of this lesson is I want to make sure that students know what like terms are and they can apply the commutative and associative properties to create an equivalent expression. So I have all my other slides here, but I actually want to embed a what do you notice question at the beginning. So I'm going to get a new slide and I'm going to type in what do you notice. And I'm going to just put in an expression. So I'm going to put in this nice long expression and I'm going to resize it. And the goal of this is that the noticing will be able to tell me what the students recall. Maybe it's the vocab that they'll recall using last year. Maybe it's that they'll realize that this expression can be simplified. And it might even help me clear up any misunderstandings that students might have. Typical ones that I clear up are, I have a couple students that think that you can add any coefficient with X and Y together because they're variables. The other one that they might need clarifying is that we have positive and negative integers. So they may forget to use the negative or the minus sign in front of the number. So depending on what students tell me, it'll help me determine if I can skip some of my slides or if I have to really do an in-depth review with them. There's 3 different ways you can ask this question. You could ask it whole group, where I can just ask the question, what do you notice, and take 5 seconds to give them thinking time and just cold call kids, and so the students can build on each other's ideas. Or I could ask the students to turn to their elbow partner and have a math talk. And that way I can walk around the room and see if I overhear some commonalities or if there's some misconceptions that are common or if I need to intervene in one pair or not. The third way is to ask the students individually. They could use their notes, since I usually use Google Slides as their notes. They could type in a response. They could use whiteboards. They could write, on a Post-it note what they notice. Since I'm using a Google app, I can add on Peer Deck and use that. That way I can assess the students individually, what they write, and I can cold call the students that I particularly want in a certain order. So like students who are finding, low-level noticings, I can call on them first, and anybody who's kind of got the end in mind, I can call on them last. So let's look at another way. So that's at the beginning of a lesson. What if we're at the middle of a unit? So I have this unit on congruence and similarity for my pre-algebra and 8th grade math. And I actually am going to embed a what do you notice question kind of at the beginning of this unit review. And I want to make sure my students are attaining to what's congruent and similar. And I want to see if they're using the vocabulary and if they can, explain to a peer the difference between congruent and similarity. So I found this image just in Google, and I'm going to change it so they don't have the words congruent and similar. And I'm going to label the triangles A and B and C. Because my goal is that hopefully that they would be looking at, A and B are congruent because all the sides are the same and it's the same shape. A and C are congruent and similar, and B and C are similar, and they can talk about the proportionality or the scale factor. So that's 2 ways. The third way I like to do noticings is I like to take chart paper, and I love to have them notice things in word problems. And I like to have them make sense of student work. And that's really about checking for reasonableness. So I have this example with Mr. Lin. It's a word problem. I want to see if they're noticing various features of the word problem and making connection to either a proportional relationship that can be used to solve it, or if they can use an equation to help them solve it. Because in Math 7, what they had learned in the prior lessons to this day was how do we use proportional relationships to solve percent problems? And then the next lesson was all about how do we use an equation to represent proportional values. So this is another example of a word problem. So it's a very similar word problem. So it's having them notice that in one of them, we were talking about a rate is 130% more. And then we had something increasing by 30%. So what did that mean? How did we connect the two different percent values, and how do we connect them to the equation? So those are really three different ways that I embed what do you notice questions in my math lesson. Hopefully you will find a way how you can find the power of noticing in your next lesson.